Back with another episode of Circle of Trades. Travis Waldstein, Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. Who have you dug up today, Travis?
I dug up my marketing people. So we're going to come in. We're going to talk about the evil word that I don't like to talk about because I pretend like I know nothing. So brought in Christina Stanley. She's my marketing gal guru, puts up with my you-know-what at Louvre Media. And this week she's out on the left coast. Isn't that right, Christina?
That is correct. I am out on the left coast this week.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Enjoying myself.
I'm sorry. So
is that a vacation since you're enjoying yourself, or you just like being out towards the California area?
It just sounds good. I'm out at the office this week. So I live in Virginia. I'm normally on the East Coast. So
Okay.
I'm visiting the office and hanging out and making sure everything's going the way it's supposed to.
yeah, she's got to make sure her Ebenezer of a boss is actually working, or doing something, at least breathing oxygen, maybe not working. So
I'm curious, Travis, how did you get connected with these people? I mean, you've been using them for a long time. How did that connection happen?
Well, there's this guy he lived in Oregon, but he now lives in Texas. His name is Chris Rattray. And for some reason, I listened to him. I'm not sure why. His wife's really nice, though. I'll say that. I like Donut a lot. Anyway, so about 10 years ago, wasn't happy with the marketing situation. I'm like, you know what? I know I need to market, but I don't want to market, if that makes sense. And so Chris turned me on to her boss, Mark, and we talked, and he probably figured I was a little bit awkward from the Midwest, but he said, took me on here in flyover country. And, that was back in early 2014. And now here we are in 2025. It's been 11 years later, and we're still doing business. And, I think I've been through, see, here's what happens. You either stay there forever like Christina has, or they get good and then they decide to go out to greener pastures. So now Christina's management now. So, she's got a total line and bring all these young kids along. So they decide, okay, I've got rid of 3 people one way or the other for them. They've either moved on or I've scared them off. So that's how this works. So.
So now, are you ready to give him a separation letter, Christina, that after all of that?
You know what? We love Travis. We love to bring our new account managers in and get to experience Travis because it gives them a great way of seeing.
It's like hazing.
Yeah, so we like to introduce them to Travis, let them see how a call could go, and then say, okay, this is worst case scenario. Now let's role play it and figure it out.
Ton of questions here, Travis. I don't know how you're wanting to lay all of this out, but I mean, there's all kinds of things I could ask.
Well, you know what, let's do. I mean, this is why I wanted to bring her on, because everybody knows me. It's like, well, hey, yeah, we're here talking trades. Well, you know what, you got to be able to market to people, and so like I said, yeah. So Todd, let's ask some questions. And
well, because I come from a broadcasting background, Christina, so obviously marketing. Because that's how in the media makes their money, whether it's television or radio. And now with what I'm doing strictly with online, it's still, that's how I make my money, is with advertising. But I'm, from your vantage point and with what it is that you do, are you focused mostly on digital, or do you still get into print and other things like that?
No, we actually do still have a lot of clients that get into different print. We've got clients who still do yellow pages. I know they do still exist.
They do.
It's about this thick of a book now, right?
It's about this big. They actually print it like every 18 to 24 months now instead of once a year. But I do have 2 clients that are still in the yellow pages, and crazily enough, they still get an ROI on it.
Really?
They do? Wow.
Yeah, they do. Yes, because it's looking to say, okay, they spent, $500. And now again, the cost of it is so much less than it used to be.
Right.
They might be spending like $500 on a bunch of stuff, but they're bringing in a couple grand, so it's paying for itself. We still have customers who do newspaper. Again, newspapers do still exist as well, and we have a couple clients that are pretty consistent in doing the newspapers, and they are bringing in the ROI. We also help with billboards, TV, radio. We do it all. There's nothing we don't do. A lot of it is now digital, because digital is where the majority of people are going to look for your business. But postcards are really effective. Travis hates postcards, but they can be very effective.
Limited,
Just like
very limited.
Yep. But we do it all. So we are a full service agency, and there's nothing that we don't do, but we track everything because if it's not working, we're not going to continue spending money on it.
Is it easier to track the digital though?
Yes and no. Attribution with digital can be very crazy because they could start from like your Google Map page, but then they don't call you until they come back like a week later and they find you on Google Ads. So you'll get a partial attribution for your Google My Business, a partial attribution on your AdWords. So there's a lot of different ways that that goes. With print marketing, you have a phone number that's dedicated to those specifically, and it's a little bit easier to actually track full cycle on the print than it is on the digital. Now, digital, you can have different phone numbers as well, but again, it's where did you start and how many times did you visit different things, and did you see me on social media first, and that's where so you saw my brand. So when you Googled looking for my service, oh, AirServe, I remember seeing a Facebook ad. I remember seeing their name somewhere. So now I'm going to click on them because I've seen their name in 4 or 5 other places.
And coming from the area that I come from, it's been, you talked about the phone numbers. If it's just strictly audio, I've always encouraged anybody to not put their phone number in the ad because it's so difficult to remember unless you have a, 1-800, and AirServe wouldn't work because you spell it weird, Travis. So
Thank you.
But that doesn't work. So, but websites are easier. Typically, if you have a very memorable website, then that can be easier to remember. But just strictly audio advertising, that it takes a lot more of it. I mean, it's the frequency and repetition thing where one single print ad can sometimes turn, you can see results from it.
But she spent 30 seconds there talking about marketing and the little bits involved. That is why I do not do my own marketing, because A, I don't have the time. B, I do not have the patience. And C, I certainly as heck don't have the organization to be able to do all this and then track it and then come say, hey, Travis, this is what this is doing. This is why I do not do it. You think you can do it, but I'm sorry. She made my whole argument for me for why I don't do it.
Well, and listen, I mean, Christina, and I'm sure that you have said this to other people, there's a reason you have a job.
Absolutely.
It's because, yes, somebody like Travis, if you wanted to take the time and invest the time into it and learn all of this stuff, you could, but all of that time is no longer spent making money inside of your company.
Exactly. And that's the conversation I have with a lot of business owners. It's like, what is the value of your time? What is your time worth? If you could be doing something in your business instead of spending that time on marketing, what would you be doing to continue to grow your business? If you're spending 5-10 hours a week on marketing, how much more business could you be generating by working in your business? So that's the conversation, is the value of time and the value of expertise. Because again, you go in business and do the business that you're doing because you know what you're doing. You like what you do. You're good at it.
Days.
To a point. It depends on who you are. Travis, you're good at it. But it depends on who you are. But you go into a business for a reason. You don't always think about, okay, do I know how to market my business? Do I know how to do my accounting? Do I know how to do my own IT? All these other ancillary things that business owners may not necessarily think about when they're starting a business, but those are time sucks that hire an expert to help you with those things so that you're truly growing your business and working in your business and not working on the things that can distract you.
Especially as you grow. And I'm going to add to this for a little bit, especially as you grow. Early on, first couple of years of business, I tried to do everything because that's what you do. And, what you find out is slowly you have to start taking hats off if you want to grow it, and you add people and you have to delegate. My first thing, was having somebody else answer the phones, So we went from someone answering the phones. Of course, it was my answering service, which nobody in the franchise loves, which that's okay. I mean, but they were better than me answering the phone at the time. we went from, I had a few service guys, okay, I'm not running calls every day anymore, because if I'm out running calls, it's taken away from me doing estimates and doing other stuff. I was working with installers, what I mean? So it's really changed, over time, getting rid of them hats, because I realized, what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, or what is something I might be good at, but I make more money doing something else than something I'm good at. Um, and it kind of goes back to your point, is not to say other people can't do it, but time. But what is your dollar worth? I mean, listen, my time's free if I want it to be free, but there's a lot of times that I don't want my time to be free, because I have things I want to do, and so you want people that are qualified to do a job that, frankly, I don't want to spend the time it needs done, but I don't want to spend the time I need to do, if that makes sense.
Travis, where do you put the marketing aspect of it, with all the things that you listed about the phones, about service calls, about all of that? Where did you put the marketing and importance of getting that replaced, so that was no longer on your plate?
That was towards the top. I mean, getting rid of the phones and me trying to answer phones and run calls and do installs and do estimates, it just didn't work. So, I mean, getting someone in the office to answer the phone was competent, reliable, that I wasn't having to be that point person as well. That was number one. But I would say that marketing was a close second. I was always spending money on marketing. And then I'd go to these sales meetings, or, homecoming or reunion or whatever convention it is. Well, you have to market. You have to do this. You have to do that. And so it was a high priority. There's things that I need to do, but I didn't know how to. And even if I did, I found out I wasn't very good at doing them. So that's when, me and Mark talked. I'm like, listen, I know what, I need to do. He had worked with a couple other franchises at that point. Now he's been with several of them. I don't know how many. And he's not exclusive to franchises either, by the way. Or I say he, I should say she, but Lou's not. And so, but he got what we were trying to do as a business. It isn't like I want to be in the front pit. It isn't like I want to be on national TV or on the Channel 7 News locally or anything like that. But, but I want to be, top of mind, want to be the first person you think of. Because listen, I'm in a needs business. I'm not in a wants business. I'm not a car. I'm not a new house. I'm not a new furniture. I'm not a diamond ring. I mean, I'm none of that stuff. Nobody wants their toilet to break. No one wants their AC not work, and that stuff. But when that problems come, you want to know who you can call, who you know, like, and trust, or have heard of or dealt with. Well, marketing needs to be a part of that to be able to grow, to get your message out. And then the third part, probably the next part, is having the people go in and do what they say the message is, if that makes sense. But I would say number three on the list as far as priority, just because of needing someone to answer the phones. But it's right towards the top. And if you look at my monthly billing and stuff, it's in my top 3 or 4 bills that I pay. And I'll question stuff, but it's never if I've got value out of it. And because here's what happens: by the time I don't, we get really busy, and then the phones ring nonstop. And I'm like, okay, if there's a question, if it's working or not, yeah, go talk to the gals in the office, ask them if the marketing's working. So, and that's when we know.
Christina, you have clients in different parts of the country. Is there a difference for, let's just use Travis as an example, with an HVAC and a plumbing company that works here right in the middle of the heartland versus what might work out in California or in Arizona or on the East Coast? Is there a difference there, or is it kind of universal as far as with that particular industry?
So it's kind of universal to a point. I think it's more of the size of the market that you're in, how you have to do things differently.
So it's more about size than location.
Yes.
Okay.
In your big metropolitan areas, your SEO is not going to work as well as it is, as quick as it does in a smaller geography territory. In a pay-per-click situation, you're going to be paying a lot more money per click, a lot more money per call in a larger metro area than you are in a smaller city or in a rural area. So yes, it translates well across the country. It's just how much time, effort, and money you're putting into certain things to make it more effective in those larger metro areas. And some of it is honestly trial and error. Because there are some things that work really well and they're working really well in 90% of the country. And then there's one little pocket that it's like, nope, it's not going to work no matter what you do. So, there's pockets of the country that still are not very internet driven. So they're not huge into using websites and things like that. So they're more old school. So you have to look at old school methods and say what's effective and what's impactful here.
Those are the ones where the newspapers and the yellow pages are doing really well.
Exactly.
And I was actually going to bring that up again and ask you that, like, for the clients that are doing that, it sounds like this is something that they have historically done and they want to continue. Is that something you ever recommend now?
Sometimes newspapers with different specials and things like that, there can be value to it. It just depends on the readership in that particular market. So it's understanding and knowing when is that going out? How often is that going out? What is the reach that it's getting? And saying, okay, is there value in what the cost is? Because you want to weigh those two against each other. If your cost is high, but you're not going to see a big return, you're like, sorry, that just doesn't make sense for us. But we have some where they're paying like $25 a week for a little ad in the newspaper. Even if one person calls a month, they're getting the value off of it. So the chances of not getting one person to call a month on something where you're continuously advertising, but the other side of that is you're also getting a good branding from it, because that repetition of seeing your name in multiple places, if you're advertising in multiple places, it actually increases the likelihood that somebody's going to call you. So if we send out a postcard and then we hit them with digital ads and then we send out an email, we've now touched them 3 different ways. They're more likely to convert into a client because they've seen our message multiple times, multiple ways. So you also have to look at the value of that to say, okay, is it worth to invest this money here, and this money here? What's ultimately my ROI on it? So we found it's much more impactful to hit it on a multi-prong approach, because people are going to recognize your name and they're going to convert.
I've said for a long time that, if me or anybody else ever tells you that you should only use me for your marketing, they're lying, because it has to be a number of different things. And actually, this philosophy that you're talking about, Christina, is it's been around for a while, because I don't remember the book and I don't remember the name of the person who was the manager of the Smothers Brothers back before they hit. And I know there's a point to this story.
All right.
But when the Smothers Brothers got very, very popular, it seemed like they came out of nowhere, but everybody just assumed they'd been around forever. And it was that style of marketing. He hit everywhere all at once. And suddenly they were huge. Next thing you know, they have their own show. Now they had the talent to back it up. But I'm just saying that style of marketing has been around for a long time. But I think sometimes folks forget that being in multiple places at the same time and stacking the way that you're talking about can have a lot more effect than sinking everything into one area.
Absolutely. And that's definitely the approach we try to use with most business owners, because it does work. It is proven to work over and over again. And that's where they're getting the biggest return on their investment, is that multi-prong approach. So I very much stand behind it.
One of the questions I actually have, and we had a guest last week from AIM Institute here in Omaha, and they're, part of their position that they do is trying to show high school kids into different stuff. And we got quite a discussion on AI actually, and what AI is doing, and showing kids different things. Talk to us a little bit, and I've seen it, and I've fought it for the first year. I'll be the first one to admit it. But now that I'm not going to say I love AI, but I understand the need for it, which is a big difference there. How is that transforming your Lube's business model and how you talk to your customers? Because what's out there now. And some's good, some's bad. but how do you guys look at the AI? And there's so many different things out there, but what's it look like for you guys?
That's a great question. So the interesting thing is AI has been around a lot longer than people actually give it credit for. So Google is AI. The internet, how things are returned, it's AI at its finest, because you're inputting information and you're getting something back, and it's based on things that you've put in specific criteria, and that's how it's being returned. So AI has been around for a long time. We're just starting to use it in much more, some people are relying on it a lot heavier and using it in a lot more functionalities. So it's the hot topic that everybody's pushing.
Yeah.
We use it for idea generation on things. It's really good, but the thing you have to understand about AI is you get out what you put in.
Yes.
So you have to be very strategic about the questions that you're asking and the information you're inputting, because if you're not putting in the right triggers to get the response you're looking for, you're going to be doing just like you do a Google search 4 or 5 times because you're not getting the right information. If you put something into AI asking it, if you're not putting in the right triggers, you're not going to get the information back that you're looking. So we do use it for ideas, and it's great for brainstorming. We don't use it a lot past that. And same when it comes to like running AdWords and things like that. We actually don't rely on a lot of the AI generation because the way that that's looking for is sometimes it's looking to just spend your money and put you in a lot of places that are not necessarily search driven.
Sure. I can see that.
So it's putting you out there in related categories and related searches sometimes. So you just have to be very careful with how you're using AI. There is value to it. It has a purpose. It has a place. You just have to be picky about how you use it and where you're implementing it. Just like anything else, everything has a value. You just have to learn how to use that tool. It's one more tool in our tool belt. How do we use it?
Well, I could ask an AI question. It's like, why is Todd an Atlanta Falcons fan? But, I already know the answer to that. So I don't need to ask AI that question.
Yes, it's because he has better taste than Travis. I actually, as a test for AI, I did something here. And because we talked about this before. So I went to ChatGPT and I typed in, write a 30-second ad for Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs. And that's all the information that I gave it. Okay. So here we go. And please, I'll give you a, big radio voice with this, but that's just try to, with the script. So this is the 30-second ad that ChatGPT gave me for Waldstein Plumbing with no information about it at all. Said, got a leak, clogged drain, or need a full plumbing upgrade? Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. From repairs and remodels to water heaters and new installations, Waldstein Plumbing's expert team delivers fast, reliable service you can trust. Don't let plumbing problems slow you down. Visit waldsteinplumbing.com. Waldstein Plumbing, quality work, honest service every time.
Wow.
That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
But they took all that information from the website. Who
I'm
not
assuming,
write that content? AI.
I didn't write a thing. Yeah, I didn't write a thing about that. I just said that, give me a 30-second ad, and that was it.
Which is great, because that means that their website is on point with what it says, because it gave you the right information.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
your website's well planned.
Yeah,
that's a good.
Now, Todd, they're going to be asking for more money next week.
Yeah, I'm now your official copywriter, and forget the ChatGPT thing. I did that.
Oh.
But it can work, and I've used ChatGPT more than once when writing an ad, but I never use it just as it comes out. And to be honest, with that particular one, initially, it said insert phone number here, and it said call this number. And I with like I said, with an audio, there's no point to a phone number, so I took that out. But and to be honest too, I'm saying Waldstein Plumbing. The name Waldstein is not always easy to spell, so that can be a little bit of a hiccup too if it's just audio. Now, if you have, if it's incorporated in with, say, some still shots and with your logo that says Waldstein Plumbing on it, then it gets easier. So that's where combining different things can work.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. So I would, let's go away from AI for a little bit because we could go down that rabbit hole all day. So you know, I want to ask, listen, because it's been a long time since I started with you guys. Not every client, not every HVAC, plumbing, donut contractor, whatever, whoever you deal with, and I know you deal with lots of different stuff and not just heating and air conditioning guys. You know, every business has clients that are good for their business, and every client business has clients that maybe aren't as good for their business. You know, most, and when people think marketing, it's like you always think the pomp and circumstance and flowers and we can do everything for everybody, but the reality is it doesn't. And Mark is kind of like her boss is kind of like the anti-marketing person. He's like the crusty old judge over in the corner at the bar, that's sitting there, at Norm's Tap, and
Across the street from Lambeau.
pretty much, same difference. So, but talk about your guys' business philosophy, and I understand you're speaking as an employee, not necessarily the owner, as far as your clientele and the clientele's that people that work well with you versus where maybe you're not necessarily the greatest fit. And I know that's a tough question because it requires you to be a little bit critical of yourself. But if you're a good company, you know what fits well and what does not fit well. So
Absolutely. I get asked that question a lot. I love that question. So we work really well with home service related businesses. Anybody that's going to come into your home, there's a lot of competition within each one of those industries. So we work well with helping our local businesses thrive within that space. So definitely local home service businesses, but I think one of the biggest key points is we work well with local businesses. So if you're a business that's looking to work within your local metro area, we do very well at helping you grow. Have we worked with clients on a national basis? We have, and we have a couple. Those are a much different space and a much different way to market than your typical local business. So I say we do well with certain industries within that national scope, but we excel when it comes to working with the local business. So if you're a dentist or a doctor or somebody who's trying to get people to come to you, but you're a small local business, or if you're somebody in the home service industry that goes to somebody's house to do something, a pool contractor, fence contractor, HVAC, whatever, we thrive in that space.
yeah, and I'm gonna bounce off that again. The thing that was for me when I first started with them is my business is primarily in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So Omaha, Council Bluffs, for you to watch around the country, is decent sized metro area, with majority of the population being over in Nebraska. We're licensed, we're whatever down there, some franchise stuff. So there's some areas I don't work over in Nebraska. We won't get into that today. But the area that I work in is kind of like a quarter of that piece. And so when you think traditional marketing, it's radio, TV, that kind of stuff. I can market all the Omaha, Council Bluffs area if I wanted to, but I'd only be able to service 25% of the population. A lot of people do not get that because they just want to take this big dartboard and say, we're going to shoot a shot out here and we're going to see what's going to happen. And, I would waste a lot of money if we went with that approach. And to your guys' credit, you got to come out and do our Minute of Air Server, Minute of Waldstein Plumbing calendar at some point, by the way. We still got to get that on the schedule.
Get that on the calendar.
But with the niche that they've had to work on for years with Google services and, the Facebooks and all that stuff, to where we're marketing and the postcards and I don't love the billboards, but they're still trying. But the stuff that they're working on to hit our local focus, several points of contact, that's hard to do. I think that's hard for a lot of agencies to wrap their hand around, because most areas, if you're in an area, you're doing one decent sized area. You're not having to carve out a piece of that area and say, hey, he's only marketing this 50% of that area. So it also takes a lot of time to understanding the market. And that's something that, early on, Mark and her boss, Mark, came out and spent time. And, you guys have been out here, I think, every year, if not every other. I mean, you've been out once a year, once 18 months to come see us, to kind of learn the area, to kind of understand what's going on here. And I think that makes a difference too. Not that they know Council Bluffs like the back of their hand, but it kind of gives them a feel for what the area is like. And there's a big difference between Council Bluffs, Iowa, and Elkhorn, Nebraska, and we're 30 miles away. The clientele, the people are a little bit different. So, and I think your business kind of has to reflect what your local environment is, and none of it's wrong. It's just, every town has its own, I wouldn't say mentality, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And that takes pretty specific, pretty, that's pretty tough to handle. And I had a lot of companies try to do it and they didn't. And that's one of the biggest reasons I've stayed with Blue, because they figured that out. They've stayed true to it. And we really haven't moved off that much because there's been no reason to. Now, if the things change down the road and we decide to expand that market, we will. But I can't imagine being anywhere close to where we've been now had we not had someone like Louv come in and do what we needed to do.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, it is, every market is different to that point, and you have to figure out what resonates with the local consumer. Mm-hmm. And that was, we actually were talking about something this morning. We were looking at a couple different ads, and I'm like, this one is resonating, this one is not. And it's little tiny tweaks, but it's testing to see which ones are resonating, because you can see which ones you're getting better conversions on. Mm-hmm. But you have to know the local market to be able to understand it. We were having a conversation about a new client we picked up about their cities, and trying to make sure that as we were doing something, we're like, oh, remove those. I'm like, nope, you want to leave that in. You want to remove that city, That's an outlier. It's too far away. Because I know that market. It was a North Carolina territory. But I'm familiar with the city. So the great thing is we have people here who know different areas of the country that can help say, yeah, this is a good area, that's not a good area, and truly understand that local market. But if you don't understand your local market, you can't effectively market to it.
And that's where someone like me who wants to not do marketing, that's where we could have a discussion. I can say, listen, I don't know how we need to market these people, but these are the zip codes or towns of people I want to talk to. And these are the towns that are really, are not on the target list or off the priority list. And so I think that's a lot to say with that. And that's as much input as I can add. And I can say, okay, you guys go figure the rest of it. I'm telling you the areas I want to market and I don't want to market. Now let's have at it.
And that makes my job easier. When you know exactly who your target market is, you're like, this is the territory I'm going after. It helps us because we can get so hyper focused with pretty much any of the type of advertising we're doing to make sure we're hitting just the target market of what you want. And you don't have a lot of loss. And those are sometimes we have those discussions to say, okay, we know that this is predominantly where you want to go. We might have about 10% loss based on how this goes, but I think it's worth the 10% loss. But you know that in marketing, there always is a little bit of loss, but if you can get it as honed in as possible, you're always going to have a much better success rate.
Sometimes less is more, So it's kind of like Todd, the less Falcons, the better off he is. So,
he just can't stop. He just can't help himself.
And Todd, I'm going to pick on something today, Todd. You're it. So
yeah, well, Christina, let me ask you this: with somebody, let's just use Travis as an example. Where would you put when he's doing his marketing? Personal branding versus a call to action, meaning trying to generate an urgency versus just I'm going to do business with Travis because I like Travis. Where do you put that balance?
There's a fine line in every piece of marketing. It depends on what type of marketing it is. Some of them, the more grassroots efforts, the more community focused, you want to put it more on the personal with Travis, because Travis has a name. People know him, people respect him, people trust him. So when we're doing that grassroots effort, we want to make sure.
Tried to get through it with a straight face. Is that it? People respect him. Is that it?
His face. But that actually sells AirServe, and that sells Waldstein Plumbing because he's got a name in the local community. So it's important to have that personal brand there because he has that name. If you don't have the name in the local community, that's where you're playing up your convenience factors, the why you're better than your competition. So it is a fine line, but you have to know which piece of marketing you're putting it out in and where in the community. Is it mass? Is it small? And which focus are you going to take?
Well, and the reason I ask is the line of work that I'm in now is about personal branding. I mean, that's where it's at. When we're talking about this form of podcast, or shorter form, or things you're doing digitally and putting videos out in the reels and the video shorts and in the longer form of the podcast. It's about reaching out and sharing more of yourself and trying to make more of a connection that way. So that's the world that I now operate in. But again, I'm not so arrogant to think that one is even more important than the other, because it's not always, Travis. I think that you would agree that you sell some furnaces that you're taking out a working furnace to put a new one in, right? So
Okay,
sometimes that call to action is important. Other times it's, okay, who's the first one that I can get a hold of because we're cold?
Yeah, it's all what's the pain point for the customer. Is it that, hey, it's old, they don't feel safe, as someone else told them it had issues? You never know what the conversation. Maybe their aunt's sister's brother's mom had a furnace issue, and there was about the same age, and they had a good experience with us. Or, hey, listen, and like I said, hey, it's cold. Who's going to pick up the phone? They called 10 companies, and listen, we were the first one to. We picked up the phone to get the information. Our technician called back and so, hey, we're out there. So you never always know. You'd like to think you know the reason, and you never know what people's mindset is. But you always have to be ready for that call to action. And that's where you can have the best marketing in the world, but if your call to action is not with the answering the phones and stuff, is not where you need it to be, that's where you'll have some of your issues. And that's really important to be able to have that, that call, once you spend the money in marketing, that the call to action is there, because if it's not, then you've wasted a lot of money. So.
Absolutely.
So Green Bay's playing a pregame and,
Yeah. You listen, we made the playoffs last year, but we're like the rest of the NFC North. We did as well as the Bears did in the playoffs. It's all good. So,
I think a lot of this stuff is really fascinating because, as we said right at the beginning, it's about a balance, and it's about finding the right balance for the company. Because, Christina, as you said, if they haven't been around a while, so people don't know who they are, then you need to stay in business. So maybe you need a better call to action. There's an analogy I've used for a long time when selling advertising. And I said, look, I can prove to you that advertising works. I said, and if we were to put one ad out saying Travis is going to be giving away $100 bills between this hour and this hour on this date, how long is that line going to be? Now, that's an extreme example of a serious call to action, but it still becomes about the message. And it becomes, how is this message resonating with the people that you're trying to reach? And it is hit and miss sometimes. It's difficult to be able to read the mind of someone. And that's where, when I was selling radio advertising, I would tell everybody that, look, let's pay attention to what this is doing. Let's see what kind of response we're getting. And if we need to make small adjustments or wholesale adjustments, then let's look at that. But, in that particular case, it takes a little longer than 2 weeks, to figure that out.
But that's a branding effort. And that's where, you have to know what you're getting into when you're going a branding route.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times when you're on TV, radio, billboards, that kind of stuff, you're more focused on branding, getting your name out there and getting that name recognition. That is a long-term strategy. That is not a, I'm going to get phone calls and see quick results. That's a long-term strategy to make sure that your name is known in the community. And you
Yeah, I
just
would
have to
think.
make sure that you can be found in the meantime. If they are looking for you, you have to make sure that when you're on the internet, that that's hyped up and it's looking good, because you want to be able to be found when people are actually looking for you because they've seen you elsewhere.
Todd, back to your deal. My favorite deal on this is, of course, everybody knows I got season tickets for Iowa. I'm a huge Iowa fan. First game last year, we went over to an Iowa City. Of course, it was 94 degrees, Labor Day weekend. So we're over there. Everybody's sweating, right? Well, okay. They sell water for $4 or $5 inside Kinnick Stadium, but they also have free water fill stations in the stadium.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're spending, what, I don't know, 60, 70, $80 for a ticket. You're there at the game, but you'll sit there in line that's 100 foot long to get to get free water out of the water stand versus walk up to the concession stands and buy the $5 water, and miss half the game. It's like, why did you come?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of tells you, there says, what's the priority? Well, if you're there to watch the game, I understand if the free water is there and you can walk up to it, fine. But if you're going to stand there for a half hour, but that kind of comes down to, are they chasing the dollar, or they value, what's their value to something? And that when you say that, that always comes up to my mind as I shake my head. I'm like, I'm here to watch football. So,
Mhm. Well, and there's that kind of thing. There's pain points about everything. Right now everybody's talking about the price of eggs, and it's and it doesn't seem to be slowing down egg purchasing. I don't know of anybody that stopped buying eggs. They're just complaining that they have to pay that much.
Well, I haven't bought eggs. I have not purchased eggs for like 2 or 3 weeks because I'm like, well, I don't think
Well,
we need
okay,
them
well
that
then,
badly.
right,
When I finally get to the point where my son is like, I want eggs, I'll break down and buy them. But yes, I have actually slowed down on buying them
right.
because I can't justify that cost. I don't know why. It just pisses me off.
yeah.
Well, it does me too, but it's they decided to everybody gets the bird flu. But I'm curious though. On the East Coast, what are you paying a dozen now?
It's like 6, $7.
Okay, yeah, that's about what it is around here. It's $6, fairly consistently at the grocery stores. There was one store that they must have run low and they had them up at $10,
Hmm.
which no, that's a hard no.
Yeah.
But again, that's one of those things that is just kind of it
It is what it is.
it's just out there, and I'm thinking about, Travis, I saw you had an online thing out recently about, I don't know if it was a rebate or just a sale on HVAC systems,
Yeah.
and that was a significant number. I would think
It,
that would generate some
it
interest.
is. It is. I'm going to go back to the chickens for a minute because I've got 15 chickens at home, for the record. But feed is not cheap.
Are they being tested for bird flu?
You know what? I've ate plenty of eggs, and guess what? Look at me. I am a picture of health. Oh, excuse me. Maybe I'm not that, but So, but yeah. So, but to answer her point, oh yeah, we've got all. I built the chicken, barn dominium that they got, or whatever I want to call it. And my wife wants to get like 30 more chickens. We actually have room for 30 more chickens, but now go to Baumgars or go to Tractor Supply and go try to buy chickens right now. It's like buying Beanie Babies back in the late 80s, early 90s. It's like, gold grandmothers are beating up each other to get these Beanie Babies. It's like, that's what eggs in the grocery store is going to be like. So and I wait till about July when everybody's bought these chickens and they go, well, feed's a lot more than what I thought. It taken care of them. I got to feed them. I got to do this every day. I feel there's going to be a whole bunch of chickens for sale in the middle of July. My wife says I'm high. I'm going to tell you right now, if you've never had chickens, I mean, with any animal, they're work. They're fun. I love our chickens. They're great, but there's a process to that. So would you rather spend the money on feed, scooping the poop, feeding the water, give them water, doing all that stuff that you have to do every day, or would you rather go spend the $10 on a dozen eggs? So, it's the same people.
The $10 on the dozen eggs.
Exactly.
Well, my opinion is that we're about to see a lot of fat little small animal predators running around that are full of they've eaten enough chickens because people don't know how to protect them. So
there's that too. Yeah.
Well, that's good time. I've had to deal with that too a couple times. That's a freaking blast. I had to chase a possum out about a month ago. That was a good time. So
possum eats chickens?
Oh yeah. Possums, skunks. Oh yeah. I mean, they'll eat them.
I know raccoons will get in there and be a problem, but yeah, I didn't know that. But I think this the marketing end of it is the moral of the story here is trust people who know.
Mm-hmm. It's not always about flash. It's more about substance, and I think that's the thing that people need to understand. Flash is great. I mean, Deion Sanders is flash, and look at Colorado. They stink as a football program as far as I'm concerned. But there's a lot of flash there. The Cowboys are flash. They haven't been to a Super Bowl in 30 years. So I mean, hey, the Vikings are flash. They've never been to a Super Bowl. So oh no, wait a minute. They've lost 4 Super Bowls. Excuse me. It's about substance. So it's about getting the work done. So and honestly, with Lou, going back and not me being totally sarcastic, it's about substance and showing results. And to me, it's doing what you say you're going to do. And sometimes that doesn't always happen. Let's be honest, Christina. I mean, sometimes I call and I start dropping 4-letter F-bombs or, and then I'll say, what the heck? But then, sometimes you have to refocus. And maybe what we focused on for a period just isn't cutting it. And we need to reprioritize. And, unfortunately, in the last year, business has changed, between the present change and just some of the stuff that's going on in the country and post-COVID and stuff kind of catching up. Business is tougher than it probably was 2 years ago. There's no doubt about it. And so you either adapt or you're going to get ate up. And to be honest, it's something we're looking at all the time. It's like, what do we have to do to adapt or change? So, and that's where you need to have somebody that's watching it every day. Not most people aren't watching their stocks every day. Well, there's quite a few that are, but I don't have time to sit there and see what the Edward Jones is doing Dow Jones is doing every hour. So I call my agent to make a trade. I'm not that stock person. I can go make more money doing this, put the money away, and hopefully what we're doing right will do whatever. And that's kind of my marketing is. Say what I want, do what we need to do, you handle it, and then we'll track the results and see what we need to do.
Yeah, and we're the ones that are watching it every day and checking on it every day because that's my job, is to make sure that it is running, it is being effective, and it is producing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the stuff that you think is going to do well, a lot of times doesn't. I have, I've got a daily podcast that I put out, and one that I put out today, I was sure was going to just go great numbers. Nope. And it's also the market, the platforms are not pushing it out because I can see, views for followers versus non-followers. And when I look at that, the ones that do well, it got pushed out further, and it's the non-follower number that goes up, and that's not happening. It's not getting pushed out. And why? I'm not sure, because it was, I thought it was going to do really well. So these are the types of things. It's an ongoing, and it's about consistency too. You just got to keep putting it out. It's not, even if it's not working, keep putting it out. You got to keep putting out content. And that's for the online game. That's just how it is.
Absolutely. And people want to see you consistently putting stuff out. They may not be following you. They may not watch it. But if they notice that you drop off on something, they're like, well, wait, what happened? Are they out of business? Mm-hmm. Or are they too busy to handle me? Because they're not being consistent. So if you're not being consistent, people can think, oh, I'm not going to get the same service that I once did because they're too busy, because they can't even do this. Or oh, they're slower and they're maybe going out of business. So do I really want to do business with them? So
makes a big
there's
difference.
so many different ways to look at it, that the consistency is what truly matters, because then nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. It's like the duck. The duck is smooth across the surface, but he's paddling like crazy to get there. So you want to just appear smooth.
And it's not always happens right away too. You know, there's a show I put out last week that got shared 3 times today. And because it got found, and then once that one share happened, now somebody else saw it, they liked it, they shared it. So, you know, there's times that I'm too impatient. Give it a little more time.
Yep.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Believe me, I know that feeling. Patience? What's that? Oh, that's why I take a pill for that. Never mind. Oh, it's not that. Never mind.
Patience is the beer at the end of the day, calming you down from all of it.
You know.
Well, Travis, I think, you know, just as a thank you to Christina, we ought to throw her website at least into the description of the episode, and let folks know where she's at. And if you have any questions about what it is that she does, you can check it out there and get a hold of somebody. I'm sure that you have people answering the phone, right?
We do. We have people that answer the phone all day, every day.
Unless you have your cell phone, then you do like being call her direct, and you know, call her when she's in the middle of supper, or she's going to the grocery store, or dropping her kid off at the ER or whatever. So you know, I
still answer the call.
Yes, I do. Time is just a number. Time is a time of the day for me. Is all it is. I have no filter when it comes to holiday. Might be supper. Might be that ship's done sailed. So
you know what? When you're in business, especially when you're in business for yourself, you call when you think about something. And I know that my business owners are busy. So if you're calling as I'm eating dinner, be like, yep, what's up? I'll get to that in 5 minutes. Let me finish eating, but I'll still take your phone call.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's it. You know, listen, for me to say so, this is about as good of a testimony as I could give you with doing this today. Like I said, you know, it's call people you know, like, and trust. So, you know, if I didn't know you, I didn't like you, and I didn't trust you, I wouldn't be here. You know, we wouldn't be here talking about this today. So I'm sure there'll be some people in Waco, Texas, that are less than happy about this, but you know what? I really don't care. Sorry, Danielle.
Call them out by name. That's not going to help.
She already knows. I mean, I'm not going to hide it, you know.
All right. Well, guys, thank you very much for your time. And Christina, thank you for some great information.
How to get a hold of you, Christina? He forgot to ask you that. How we get a hold of you?
LouveMedia.com.
LOUVE.
LOUVREMEDIA.com.
That's not spelled correct. It should be Louvre.
Nobody spells anything right anymore.
But it's freaking French. You know what?
Yeah, it's like the Louvre in French.
Yeah.
Or in France. Yeah. The Louvre Museum or Louvre Media.
Yeah. See, there
that makes sense.
Yeah. You know, but your boss ain't French, so what the heck?
So marketing is based on building a platform and building up.
Okay. So
the Louvre Media the Louvre is a triangle. It's got a solid foundation, and you're consistently building your marketing and your media up.
Okay, see, there you go. Now I learned something today. So next time I see your boss, I'm gonna say, I hear you're a triangle foundation. So now I should feel blessed knowing that.
Well, if you're watching or listening and you're still with us on whatever platform, please hit that like, subscribe, follow, whatever the button is on your platform. We would appreciate it, and it helps. All of those clicks help, and it gets this information out farther. So that's something you can do completely for free, but it's going to help everything. So we're grateful, Christina, for you taking the time to do this. Yes, Travis, as always, go Falcons. And I'm Todd Studer, and we'll see you again next time with Circle of Trades.